Happy Thursday, everybody. Believe it or not, we are just a couple of days from the end of April 2021. Welcome to Leading to Sales, to our Thursday live broadcast. My name is Brett Williams. I am your host, as I am every show. And today I am very excited for our special guest because Kaemmerer literally wrote the book on LinkedIn for the savvy executive. And we're going to be talking about the power of personal branding when you're in a leadership position and why it matters. And if you aren't aware of Carol, you can definitely find her obviously on LinkedIn of all places, but her expertise and frankly, from a personal perspective, I got on a call with Carol probably just a couple of weeks ago before this call. And as soon as we were on the call, towards the end of the call, we were having just kind of general conversation, getting to know each other a little bit. And she was able, just through a couple of quick little pointers, to help me with my LinkedIn profile and with understanding the power of some very specific parts of my personal branding. So make sure that you tune in, listen up, because you're about to get taken to school on the power of your personal brand. We'll be right back with Carol right after this.
Welcome to the Leading to Sales podcast. Every week, we're bringing you leadership, sales, and marketing strategies to help you move your business forward. Here's our host, internationally known sales and marketing leader, Brett Williams.
Hey, Carol, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Hey, thank you. I can't tell you how much we really appreciate you for coming on. It's the power of your expertise in this area when it comes to executive personal branding, I think, is something that so many of our listeners need, and they know they need. And so when I saw the expertise that you had, I'm sure this is going to be a shock for you, when I stumbled across you on LinkedIn, I knew we had to make sure to try to get you on the show, because this is an area that I feel like, even for me, even though the name of the agency that I run is Leading LinkedIn, we have some specialty in helping certain people with the LinkedIn area, but not the way that you do. And I know that our listeners could gain so much from your experience and from your expertise. So like I said, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you for coming on. Before we even dive into intros, because I do want you to tell us a little bit about your background, because you've got a very interesting background where I think you really showed your agility in a very unique way. I'm one of those weird show hosts that I do like the deep research. I watch all the videos that I can find and all that. But Carol's book, like I said, LinkedIn for the Savvy Executive, this is the second edition that just recently was updated, correct?
Actually, you have the first edition there.
Oh,
this
do
is
I?
the second edition.
Okay, well, I guess I am already dated. Okay, I can see the difference there.
So, you can tell it's the second edition. It has the little thing.
Yeah.
And it also has the book award that I won.
Okay. So
I'm
we want to make sure
of best LinkedIn books of all time.
And based on the first edition, which I erroneously have read, I would definitely agree. And here's one of the powers of this book, just from somebody who's personally read it, guys, is the power of this book is the principles that Carol shares in the book. They are what I would call evergreen principles. There are a lot of hyper tactical pieces, but she goes into the mindset behind it, and I just love it. But it's not some big, long, drawn-out book. So we're not going to make this a book infomercial, because it's not, because it's about delivering value to you. But I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. Make sure, in order to get the second edition copy, and I will double check this link, getsavvybook.com. Make sure that you go to that to pick up her book. So with that, Carol, long introduction, please, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and about how you came to land in this space.
Okay. Truly by accident, I am here. But everything that went before is what informs what I do now. So the 20 years before I became a LinkedIn expert, I worked as a marketing communications consultant for a Fortune 500 company in the medical device space. They were my only client. I thought I had diversified because I had 2 different divisions that I was working with. But obviously not. It worked really, really well for me for 18 of those 20 years. My in basket was always full to overflowing. I had work. I did not ever have to seek work. It always found me. I loved doing what I did. But in May of 2010, and then again in May of 2011, the company was undergoing a huge downturn. It was an industry-wide downturn. And they were scrambling to make their numbers. And one of the things that many companies do, and this company decided to do that too, was outsource some whole functional areas.
Yeah.
So they outsourced marketing communications under a retained arrangement, and it meant that I lost my client.
Yeah.
I lost my client of 20 years. Can you imagine 20 years of network,
Wow.
all locked up within that company?
Yeah.
And I realized that I either had to retire at that point, or I had to do something really remarkable.
Right.
And so finding that it didn't take very long for me to recognize that I couldn't put up a website with all of my great work because it was always all company proprietary. That just wasn't going to be okay. So what I did was I went back to LinkedIn and realized that it was a place where I could build a new network. It was a place where I could talk about my value. And so I began to study LinkedIn as a subject matter. I would attend every webinar. I would read every article. I would research and research. I would try out different things. And while I was learning all these things, I helped my friends who had also lost their jobs. And it didn't take very long before they started sending me their friends. And that was when I realized, oh, I have a new area of subject matter expertise. How about that? So it was really quite by accident that I developed this new area of subject matter expertise, but also I blend that with my deep branding experience that I got from 20 years working with this Fortune 500 company, writing their stuff. And so now I shine my branding brilliance on people rather than on products. And it gives me great joy. I really enjoy doing what I do. More?
There we go. Sorry. Apparently, I had my internet just decided here midstream to crash. So I apologize.
Well, I couldn't imagine you wanted me to say more about that. But
I am sure that was a phenomenal answer, but my my internet just decided to crash. So I apologize. That's never happened before, but this is the beauty of live streaming, right?
yes.
So I've heard some of your origin story quite a bit. So I pretty well know where the answer came from there. So let's just dive into the personal branding side of, as we're talking about how executives, we're in this new world, if you will. And you have seen the, I guess you could say, the peaks and valleys of personal branding. And with everything that executives are dealing with today, why is personal branding something that people should even focus with everything else they're trying to keep spinning, all the other plates they're trying to keep spinning?
Well, one thing that's important is we need to understand for ourselves who we are, what we're good at, what we love to do. And if we put that out there on our LinkedIn profile, for instance, then we draw opportunities that are ideal for us.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to draw those opportunities while we're employed than it is while we're not employed.
Yeah.
And right now, this is a very, very dicey time in the world of work, as I know you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and everyone listening has experience with that. And so in my book this time, in the second edition, I have a special chapter on people who are in transition. And I don't know, putting your brand out there works, whether you're working for a company and you want to add value to the company, and there you are as an expert. People can see you are an expert. It helps the company.
Yeah.
Great. But if you should lose your job, it works for you still.
Yeah.
And when we share what we love to do, those new opportunities
Yeah.
can come to us as well. I just love that opportunities just are dovetailed with our willingness to be authentic on this
Yes.
profile.
Yes. Yeah, I call this one of the phrases that I use for this when I'm talking about it from more of a corporate standpoint, because that tends to be, I'm more focused on the high level, if you will, of the branding, is the clarity in messaging.
Yes.
And if you're thinking about it from a corporate perspective, that's the making sure that your company as a whole is communicating a consistent message. But when you're thinking about it from a personal perspective, it's even more important, at least in my opinion, because that's where people have the opportunity, if they're not in an environment like this, or some sort of meeting, to really get to know you as best they can without interacting with you.
Absolutely. It is the place of first impressions.
Yes. I need to write that down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Many of the first impressions that we make are made with our profile. And so we have a skimpy profile. It does not reflect well on us.
Yeah.
People like to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And we can build that right into our profile.
Yeah.
We can do it very powerfully. But if you don't, your chances of finding the talent that you want to hire, your chances of attracting new customers or clients, your chances of finding a new referral partner, they just are diminished.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think personal brand is so important. And the other thing is, personal brand helps us should we lose our jobs.
Yeah.
We are bigger than any one job that we have. But if you go through a job loss and you haven't done that branding work for yourself, it is so hard to do it when
Yeah.
you have been kicked in the gut.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick yourself up. And so that's why I urge people to, do it now. The best time to have planted a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is now.
Exactly. It's that whole dig your
So,
well before you're thirsty mentality.
yes, yes.
So tell me this, if I'm thinking from the perspective of, and I am not one of these, but I would love to hear your perspective on this, because I know a lot of our listeners are. If I'm thinking from the perspective of a mid to high level executive in a sizable company,
Right.
how do I strike the balance between personal branding across all of the social profiles versus representing my company? Like, how, because I know it's kind of, if you will, a tango that you've got to play.
It is.
So from your perspective, how do you approach that, or how would you tell people to approach that?
Okay. Well, the higher your position, I would say the more you have to bring in your company brand.
Okay.
So, the CEO should definitely talk about why they're proud of their company in their
Right.
about section.
Right.
But there's still room for you.
Yes.
The CEO is more than the CEO of that company. The CEO is a real person.
Yeah.
And the CEO came from somewhere and will at some point go on to someplace else too.
Yeah.
And to be absolutely authentic and genuine is really important.
Yeah. So when you're thinking from the perspective, and I know there are a lot of different schools of thought of this on LinkedIn and across all platforms, when you're thinking from the perspective of a leader and an executive, some people would be of the school of thought that your digital presence needs to be purely professional, keep personal things out of it. We all know politics and religion, that's probably not areas that we want to get into. But apart from that, just bringing through your personal life, what is your perspective on that? Do you feel like it's something that should really be integrated into the content that you're putting out and things like that, especially on more professional platforms? Or do you think it's that we maybe need to kind of keep the professional platforms professional and save the personal content for personal platforms?
I kind of am toward the latter. LinkedIn really does need to be professional.
Yeah.
Sharing what you had for lunch just isn't not
Totally
not
agree.
it, not where it's happening.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is some authenticity that we can show. And I think that it has to do with what is the intent. For instance, if I had a son playing Little League baseball
Mm-hmm.
and I put up a picture of him at bat.
Yeah.
Now, that would be good on Facebook, and I could talk all about Timmy and his team and how he's improved. If I were to post that on LinkedIn, I would need some business reason.
Okay.
It could be a fabulous tie-in to talking about teamwork.
Yeah.
And how individuals came into this team, but all of a sudden now they are working together and seeing opportunities. And yes, it is your son Timmy who's there at bat as the great picture.
Yeah.
But you're making a business point.
Yes.
And so that's the way that I see that. The other thing that I would say is that those senior level leaders who are expressing principles, there are a lot of companies that are really getting some good press because they've taken a position.
Yeah.
A position on something that is somewhat controversial.
Right.
And one of the things that I know is that millennials are interested in working for companies where people are willing to take a stand.
Yeah.
And so, I think that it has to be a stand that is neither Democratic or Republican, not
Right.
divisive like that, but it can be a stand regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
Or, standing with Black Lives Matter or with people of other kinds of diversity.
Right. Things that are obviously moving us towards, a seemingly better society, if as it were, not the typical, political quagmire, but the things that are, okay, well, I'm a human, you're a human, let's get behind this type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, those people who are sharing not only their leadership principles, but their principles that they're bringing to their business.
Right.
I think that is very powerful. And it can work both ways, but I think that it will enable those leaders to attract the millennials that they are looking to attract for their talent going forward.
Yeah. So when we're playing, and I don't like to use this, it's the thing, it's the term that's bouncing around in my head. I don't love it, but it's when we're playing the game of content, if you will, when
Mhm,
we're thinking
mhm.
about producing content. I know you cover some in the first edition, which I mistakenly read. Now I'm going to go get the second edition and read it, because I'm telling you, this book is money from the first edition. So I can only imagine how good the second edition is. But when we're thinking about content as an executive, so often I see leaders that what will happen is their marketing team will be managing their company page.
Mhm.
Their company page will put out an article. And if you look at a leader's content, the only content that they've ever put out is sharing the articles from their company page with no thoughts, no nothing.
Yeah,
Like just, hey, I just click share. Or really, I most likely had someone on my staff click share on my behalf.
right.
So what is I'm sure that's not the way that you would advise people to do it. What is your attitude and thought process on content as how leaders should be curating and sharing content?
Okay. Certainly, it's not inappropriate for them to share what their marketing people picked. Their marketing
Right.
people are really smart, and that's great. But oh my goodness, it would be ever so nice if they could add a little
Yeah.
blurb of their own about this trend that they see, or how proud they are of their company, or something.
Yeah.
It's like, please.
Just add a little bit of value to it, right?
Right. When I'm working with my clients, I always suggest to them that they set up Google alerts for things that they care about,
Yeah.
um, industry trends or subject matter that is important to them, so
Yeah.
that they are sharing something that is current and topical and that makes a difference to them.
Yeah.
Um, there are so many trends that affect our industry. We don't have to just comment on what's happening at our company.
Right.
It's not all about product releases. It's about the environment. It's about bigger things. People at a senior level should be more global in their thinking. They should
Yes.
be paying attention. So that's what I recommend.
I love that. I know this almost sounds elementary, but to me, the way I'm receiving what you're saying is maybe as leaders, we should lead
Yeah,
everywhere.
what a concept.
And that's, I mean, exactly. It's the fundamental principle of realizing that when we take on the responsibility of leadership, regardless of the size of your company or regardless of wherever it is that you may fall in any number of different metrics, that we do have that responsibility of leading and giving value. And I hate saying giving value because in the past 24 months, it's become so cliche. But to me, it's really about giving people something that they can make a difference with.
Yes.
And whether that's for you personally,
Mhm.
or for your company, or just because you were blessed enough that somebody gave it to you at some point, or sewed into you at some
Mhm.
point. So you should be giving that back out. And I think, how much do you, from your perspective, do you see that content and that active curation of value plays in building the brand of an executive or of a leader?
So those people that do it well have great brands,
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness. Um, I would say that senior leaders are mostly reticent to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that is sad because they lose the opportunity to woo their future talent.
Yeah.
They lose the opportunity to bind the customer to their company more tightly.
Yes.
When we love our leaders and our brands, we get excited about that. And when leaders do share,
Yeah.
it endears the company and the leader and all of it. And so I think it's an opportunity
Yeah.
that is not often taken, but it is something that sets us apart, that sets us outside the competition. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's what I'm looking for.
Yes, yes. It's that true differentiation that people talk about looking for, but sometimes don't maybe take as much action toward.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, so when I'm thinking through this, one of the things that really just sticks out to me is when we're in this process of content curation and we're talking about giving value. One of the things I had a guest earlier this week actually who used this, and he said that we're all going to be remembered in about a sentence. I believe this is a John Maxwell quote. And he said, we're all going to be remembered in about a sentence. But the question is, what are we doing right now to write that sentence? And I think having that value giving attitude consistently is what's going to make the difference in how someone's going to read that sentence,
Right.
or what sentence it is even that they're going to read after the fact, that, whether we're gone or just gone from our position, or maybe even potentially, as you were saying, in transition and looking for something else. So, I mean, we're coming here towards the half hour mark, and that's typically where we like to move towards closing. I've just got two quick questions for you as we're starting to close out. What have you seen, if you will, that has changed, or if anything, when it comes to personal branding because of the global pandemic as a whole? I mean, obviously it's become more important, but has it become a more competitive space? Like, what have you seen that may have morphed or evolved because of that?
I think people are more aware that, number one, we're not being seen. We're not anywhere.
Yeah.
Unless we're on LinkedIn. If we're all working from home, the only people that you get to see are the people who are in your Zoom meetings.
Exactly.
And I think that people are realizing that there's more content on LinkedIn and more interesting things, and that when we are active on LinkedIn, we actually create our own network beyond the Zoom.
Yes.
And my network is global. I have people who follow me from all over, and it's so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
I just love that I can have conversations with people, from all over.
Yeah.
So there's also, I think, an awareness that we need to scrub up our brand because we've now pivoted. People who used to do one thing cannot do that one thing, in many cases. And so they're pivoting, and their marketing material, their personal marketing material, like LinkedIn, it has not caught up.
Yeah.
And so I think that they are also hungry for that. And that was why this was the right time to write that second edition.
Yes, it really was. Had you planned on releasing that second edition before the pandemic, or was it just, if you will, serendipity?
So it was released in January.
Okay.
And yeah, I've been working on it.
There you go. So again, to pick up that second edition, and I did double check, the link that we have is pointing to the correct edition. Apparently, I just ordered the incorrect one. Go to getsavvybook.com. That's going to take you directly to Amazon, where you can order the second edition of LinkedIn for the Savvy Executive. And that way you can make sure that you are preparing your personal brand for the way things are going forward. Because I think it's no longer an option. Like I think 2 years ago, there were a lot of executives out there that would have said, well, it's a nice option. I just don't want to invest the time. I don't have the time. But I think that the optional side of it has gone.
I think that's true. The other thing I can mention is this QR code, wherever it is. I don't know. Over my shoulder. It goes to a place where you can order an inscribed book from me.
Yes. And so for those of you who are tuning in later, because I know many of you will catch the podcast, Carol has been so kind to actually share a link, a URL link with that as well. We will make sure that that is in the show notes and in the comments for the various platforms that we're live broadcasting to. But yes, if you're tuning in and you're able to see the video right now, just scan that QR code. I can't really point to it because she's on the other side of the screen, but scan that QR code.
Obviously, I can't even point to it either.
It's okay. It's all good. So scan that QR code and that'll take you to where you can actually get a signed copy. And anybody who tunes into me very often knows I'm all about the signed copy. So that's where I will be ordering my second edition. So I can make sure I get an inscribed copy from Carol. So yes, absolutely. So as we're closing out here, Carol, tell us just a little bit about how people can interact with you. I do have the link for your LinkedIn profile, so people can take a look at that. Obviously, as an amazing example, as well as a way to begin to follow Carol. But above and beyond that, how you can help people who may be finding themselves, if you will, just floating out there needing some help with their LinkedIn presence.
Okay, well, the key to finding me on the internet is having a clue as to how to spell my name, which is very hard. It has twice as many letters as it needs. So take a good long look at that, because my website is carolkaemmerer.com. My YouTube site is YouTube/Carol Kaemmerer. My LinkedIn has my name in it, just like that. So if you get close and you write LinkedIn, you will be very likely to find me.
Yeah.
You can find me on Amazon too.
Absolutely. So if you need help with your LinkedIn presence, Carol, like I said, Carol was kind enough just to even happen to, at the end of a call that I had with her, say, hey, have you looked at this and this and this? And it was just things that I frankly should have already looked at, but that she helped me with. So make sure that you reach out to Carol. And even if you're not necessarily looking for help right now, make sure you go to her LinkedIn profile, which I've got down below, and I'll put in all the show notes and comments areas. So you can follow her, because Carol is one of those people who is consistently giving value on the platform. And you will get a lot from her just because she has a giving heart. So make sure to go to follow that link and follow Carol. Carol, thank you so much for coming on the show. I can't tell you how much value I know people are going to get. I know we did not get tactical today. And that is because if you want to get tactical, then you need to go pick up Carol's book. The way the book is written is it's a perfect balance of helping you understand how to think about your brand, your personal brand and presence, as well as the very specific tactics to do to make sure that your presence is going in the right direction across all of the major platforms. And obviously for those of you who are in the business world, most especially on LinkedIn. But thank you so much for coming, Carol. I know that you've given a lot of value to a lot of people, and making time to come on here. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
A joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So